All right, so recently at Ohio State, we had this happen. The crowd booed the Ohio State commencement speaker who says he took psychedelics to write his speech as he pitched Bitcoin to them. Christopher Penn is a social entrepreneur, musician, inspirational speaker, and a 99 Ohio State grad. On May 5th, he will deliver the commencement address for our OSU grad class of 24. So again, this was about a couple weeks ago, maybe, no, not quite a couple weeks ago. Anyway, so in the speech, again, he brings up Bitcoin, and he got booed. Now, it wasn't the biggest boo I've ever heard, but I mean, I think people are overreacting a little bit, but nonetheless, there was a lot of booing. So what is the point of this, of me talking about this? The point is, this is just another of example after example after example of why we are still so early. Now, to be fair, I have said time and time again, and I still stand by this, that the majority of people will never accept Bitcoin. I'm pretty confident in that, and the reason is the majority of the population is economically illiterate, and we have been conditioned to never have to take responsibility for any of our bad decisions, especially when it comes to economics and anything economic related in society. So I would be very surprised if the majority ever adopt it, but I think there's 10 or 20%, maybe 30% of the population that will. I'm very confident in that, because you do have a clear minority, whether, like I say, whether it's 10 or 20%, that's probably roughly where I would set it at, but maybe it's 30. I definitely don't think it's a majority, so I'm very confident in that. But again, even if you have 20% of the world population, let's say we're 10 billion people 50 years from now, that's 2 billion, 3 billion Bitcoin owners. Again, that is, 21 million coins divided by even, let's just say 2 billion people, even if it's a billion people, that still means we're worth millions, probably even tens of millions per coin. Again, the thing when it comes to Bitcoin is, again, nobody knows what's going to happen long term. I'm confident that we're going into the millions, but again, it may take longer than people think. It may never happen. Nobody knows. But my problem, and again, I've gone over this quite a bit before, but this is just another reason in a way to be bullish, but in a way to be concerned, depending on how you look at it. The biggest concerns when it comes to Bitcoin are very rarely the ones that especially outsiders bring up. When it comes to outsiders, people that aren't Bitcoin owners, the critiques and the concerns they have, it again, 99% of them are just absolute garbage. Either they're just lying to people to push their agenda, like the Peter Schiffs of the world, that just, again, they accurately recognize the problems we face, but again, they're just so invested in it being gold that, again, we can't have it be Bitcoin, right? So, or they're the traditional finance guys that just refuse to actually look into it and understand it, and they think that, I got an economics degree, I know everything, and I've been a financial advisor for 30 years, I know everything. Again, like there's a lot of people that are just stuck in their ways. But again, when you look at it over time, again, consistently we've had more and more adoption. But getting back to my main point, my biggest concern when it comes to Bitcoin is the I don't want to admit I'm wrong factor. Again, that's what I call it. I've never actually heard it called anything, so that's what I'm going to label it. The I don't want to admit I'm wrong factor is the biggest concern that I have. And the reason for that is that we've already seen it to a large degree. Look at the Peter Schiffs of the world. He's been bearish for over a decade. He's been bearish on Bitcoin since it was literally in the hundreds, maybe even less than 100. And yet he missed by far the best, I mean, aside from maybe investing in Nvidia a decade ago, but the best opportunity of his lifetime, he was bearish on the entire time. Like, it's one thing to like, nobody, if you hadn't heard of it up until 5 years ago, a year ago, whatever it is, but if you knew about Bitcoin in 2012, which I'm rather certain he did, that would be the most sad thing you can possibly imagine and not invest. So again, my point here, again, what does he do? Rather than just admit he's wrong and move on, he just doubles down and just never admits he's wrong. And again, Peter Schiff right about a lot of things, but this is one thing that he's clearly wrong about. And this is the reason that I don't listen to him, right? Because again, you're wrong about, like, if you miss the best investment opportunity of your lifetime and you don't admit you're wrong about it, I don't know why anyone would take you seriously when it comes to investing. Like, I genuinely don't. Like, if you had the chance to invest in Berkshire Hathaway in 1970 and you didn't, and you've been saying all the time, borderline day after day after day for the last 54 years or whatever the number is, that, oh, Berkshire, terrible investment, year after year, day after day, like, why would anyone take you seriously? But again, this happens all the time. Warren Buffett's been bearish on Bitcoin forever. Dave Ramsey, again, these guys, and it's funny too, because these guys, when Bitcoin is down, they'll take their victory laps and pretend like, oh, I told you guys, I'm so smart. But again, I remember someone playing a Dave Ramsey call when Bitcoin was at $400, and he told them don't buy. So yeah, you take your victory lap when it goes down, whatever, 60-70%. But hey, funny enough, even if you would have bought right at the top, you still would have been up if you bought when he originally said don't buy. So again, my main point here is my biggest concern is the I don't want to admit I'm wrong factor. And the other factor too is the evil politicians will do whatever they can to sabotage it factor. I think those are the two biggest concerns. Now again, are they going to be able to regulate Bitcoin out of existence? Absolutely not, because, I mean, there's examples of this, right? I mean, China has quote-unquote banned Bitcoin several times, and it hasn't gone away. And China is incredibly authoritarian, to say the least. And I mean, if the US or Canada gets that bad, which I could certainly see, but if they get that bad, we're going to have a lot of other concerns on our hands as well. So anyway, getting back to that point here, again, those are my two biggest concerns. And those are the two biggest concerns. But again, why are people not accurately recognizing those? They're not accurately recognizing it because they don't understand it. And something that, again, when it comes getting back to the market as a whole, is it's rather clear that inflation is going to run hotter. I mean, barring a recession, which again, that would bring on its own set of problems, but minus a recession, inflation is going to continue to run at 3, 4, 5%. And given that, I mean, politicians, I'll take a step back. Inflation is going to run at 3, 4, 5%. People are going to keep voting for the same failed policies over and over again. They're going to blame everything but what is actually to blame on the problem, on what's causing the problems we face. And again, eventually, there's going to be the people that are smart enough to recognize what's actually going on, say to themselves, hey, I can continue to barely tread water, or maybe not even tread water, or I can simply invest $100 or $200 a month, whatever the number is, it doesn't matter, into Bitcoin. Eventually, like I said, getting back to my main point, 10, 20, 30% of people are going to be like, yeah, I can't stand this anymore. I have to take the leap of faith. And again, when you look back at it, nobody who's bought Bitcoin and held it for more than 4 or 5 years regrets it. Like, literally nobody. I've never heard of a single example of that. Now, another concern is the whole crypto angle, in that one of the other concerns with Bitcoin that isn't talked about enough, and I think that this is one of the biggest concerns as well, mainly because it's not talked about enough, is the crypto aspect of it, and the scammy nature of a lot of these things. And my whole point here is that a lot of people view Bitcoin and crypto as being one and of the same, which is like saying that, because of Bernie Madoff, you shouldn't buy stocks, which is insanity, but that's how a lot of people view it, right? A lot of people hear about Sam Bankman-Fried and these kind of things, and the Celsius, BlockFi, you name it. They hear about those things and they think, hey, I got to stay away from Bitcoin, which doesn't make any sense, but that's how a lot of people think about it. And my whole point here is the people that are already in the space, the people that already understand, for the love of God, stop supporting all these scammy cryptos Like again, 99.999% of cryptos you shouldn't even think about buying. You can count on one hand, and that might even be generous, the amount of cryptos that are legitimate. The rest are either scams or maybe they have a little bit of value, but at the end of the day, they're centralized and there's virtually no differentiation between them and the existing financial system, right? Again, if you want some names, Ethereum, they're not decentralized. They're arguably not even a hedge against inflation. Same goes for Solana, XRP, you name it. And the whole point here is, what do people actually need? What do people actually need? People, and this is one of the other big critiques you hear is, oh, I want to be able to buy coffee with my Bitcoin. And because of that, I'm not going to, because I can't do that efficiently right now, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin, which is stupid, because the main use case for Bitcoin, in my opinion, is a hedge against the system, in that the government can't just decide to say one day, hey, I'm going to freeze your bank account. I'm gonna confiscate your savings accounts or your investments accounts. They can't do that. And I mean, when it comes to Ethereum, when it comes to XRP, when it comes to Solana, yeah, it's a little bit harder than it is your savings accounts or your investments accounts, but they certainly could do that if they really wanted. And the other example, or the other reason, is a hedge against inflation. Those are the things that people need. People don't need, I mean, it would be nice to have, but the big thing that is plaguing the system right now is not, I don't have a way to buy coffee in a decentralized private manner. That is not a problem that is keeping people awake at night. When have you ever heard of an article or a social media post like, oh, I'm losing sleep because I can't buy a coffee with, in a decentralized manner without the government's permission? Nobody is saying that. I mean, people are saying that, but people aren't losing sleep over it, is my point. People are losing sleep over, how am I going to pay my bills? People have lost sleep and continue to lose sleep over, hey, the government could, I mean, because it's already happened, there's example after example of, hey, the government could just take all my money, or the government could just tax it all away. That happens all the time. So again, that is my point, that stop supporting these cryptos that have virtually no use case, right? Bitcoin is, and again, a lot of people say, oh, the privacy coins or this or that. And it's like, I acknowledge that there's some of the things that have value, but at the end of the day, if you can't convince the populace to adopt Bitcoin, you ain't going to convince them to adopt your altcoin with $1 billion market cap. I don't care. Right? Would you rather have a significant likelihood of convincing people to adopt something that's 80-90% perfect versus a very, very, very low chance of convincing people to adopt something that's perfect? I don't understand these arguments. And again, we're only 15 years into this project. Like, I mean, if you were to judge the internet as, oh, it can't do this and it can't do that, based on how it looked in 2005, like, that wouldn't be a fair comparison. So anyways, to sum it up here, this is proof that we are still very, very early. And one of the big reasons for that is these were college graduates. This wasn't a retirement home, right? These are people in their 20s. These are the people that are supposed to be the most into quote-unquote crypto, if you want to put it that way. And yet still, the clear majority of them, the vast majority of them, they couldn't be bothered. And the reason that this is good, at least mostly good, because I think there's some concerning aspects, which I already brought over, but to sum it up here, the reason that this is good is a lot of these people are going to be like, hey, I got to choose between paying my bills and possibly losing my house, or simply just buy some Bitcoin, right? Eventually, like I said, there's going to be 10 or 20, 30% of people that just buy the Bitcoin. And to me, it's so obvious that I think it's impossible to ignore. And again, we are still at 1-2% adoption. Like, I mean, I can count on, I maybe know 1 or 2 people that actually own Bitcoin. And again, I've probably talked with, I don't know, 100 people. So again, just my personal experience. But again, there's no way that more than 1 or 2, maybe 3% of the population is actively buying and holding Bitcoin. Again, I would love to know the numbers. I don't know how you would ever accurately figure that out, because there's a lot of people that probably bought a long time ago and are just hodling. So again, it would be a very hard number to figure out, but I would like to know the number. But I would be shocked if it was anything in more than the low single digits. And again, considering inflation is going to continue to run hot, considering the government is going to keep printing money, considering people are most likely going to keep voting for the same failed policies over and over again, eventually there's going to be no other choice. And that will be bullish, right? What happens when the Fed cuts? That's going to be bullish. In my mind, over the long run, it's extremely unlikely for there to be any reason to be bearish. Like I'd love to hear people's arguments. Over the short run, yeah, we could see a crash. Absolutely, that could happen. But over the long run, I say it's very unlikely. So anyway, I just wanted to make a video about this. So again, if you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more.